Welcome to the Real Women, Real Business podcast, where we believe you don't have to choose between doing what you love and building something truly successful. Each episode, we cut through the noise to show you exactly where your energy should go, how to eliminate what's keeping you stuck, and most importantly, how to tell the difference between what's actually making you money and what's just keeping you busy. Around here, we're all about helping you to work smarter, build stronger, and dream bigger. You've already built something amazing, but if it feels like you're stuck in a cycle of back-to-back calls, half-finished launches, and late nights just trying to catch up, you're not alone. Most women start their businesses with passion and drive, but somewhere along the way, they start settling for good enough. They want more, but worry it will cost them too much. And let's be honest, we spend so much time thinking about how to help others, we start feeling guilty for wanting to build real wealth or prioritize our own goals. That's exactly why I created the Real Women, Real Business Mastery Program to help ambitious women like you stop settling for just enough and start building a business that's truly aligned, where passion, profits, and progress work together, because making more doesn't mean sacrificing more. It means building smarter with the right support and the right strategies. If you're ready for sustainable success in a business you actually love running, book your free coaching assessment at aboutShaunaLynn.com/coach me. Let's explore what's possible together. Hello and welcome to the Real Women, Real Business podcast. I am your host, Shauna Lynn Simon, and today's guest that's joining us today, we've got RuthAnn Rafiq, owner and lead designer behind Our Art Space, a branding studio that helps coaches and service providers to establish themselves as sought-after experts through sophisticated branding and custom Squarespace websites. Now, RuthAnn specializes in working with entrepreneurs who are ready to scale to 6 and 7 figures and need their brand to reflect the premium quality of their offers. So beyond building beautiful brands, RuthAnn is also a wife, a mama to 3 little ones, and is homeschooling, proving that sustainable business growth is absolutely possible, even in the busiest seasons of life. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into how premium positioning becomes your best sales tool, and that connection between branding and the money mindset, and organic marketing strategies that are going to turn your website into a client magnet. So welcome, RuthAnn.
Thank you so much for having me, Shauna Lynn. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you about this because I think there's definitely a difference between, someone who's just starting their business, just launching, and you're working with people who are already established, but they're working to scale. And I think that we often see, or I'm assuming that you probably often see some patterns in some of the things that they're facing. And websites are still something that is very important in terms of our brand image, despite social media and everything else. Like, websites are one place where we can actually control our own brand. So you're working specifically with coaches and service providers who want to scale to 6 or 7 figures. What are some patterns maybe that you see in their branding when they're stuck at sort of a certain revenue ceiling?
Yes. So one big thing I see for them is that, visibility isn't the problem. Like, they are getting visible. They normally have a podcast. They normally have a membership of some kind. They have coaching programs. They have one-on-one specialties. So they are out there. They are doing their thing. Getting revenue is not an issue for them. This is something they've, been working on, growing their revenue and reach. And so they get to a point, though, where it feels like the conversion is not happening as fast as they want it to happen. So maybe they're getting a ton of visibility. They're getting out there. They're, guesting on podcast episodes and stuff, but they're just not seeing a lot of conversion from all of their visibility. So rebranding really helps them with that, in the sense that they look so much more polished, they look premium, and they look like the industry leading expert that most times they are.
Do you find that they're feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome potentially with this, where, they've got a brand that represents, what they've already built, but now they want to attract more premium clients. They want to attract more clients, and they need to step into this whole new level. Is there a point where they're feeling maybe like their brand is sort of not representing them in the right way? Like, where's their identity coming in, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yes, that's such a good question. I think, a lot of times that is the sense I get from clients who they're just saying there's a mismatch. Like they feel like they've really gotten to this level and their brand is like left behind in the dust, or like, their website is something they hired out in the beginning. Maybe they DIY'd it in the beginning and things were fine then, but they've really like grown into a new era of their business. They are wanting more higher level clients. They're wanting to have a new offer or what it may be. And it is an up level in their mindset for sure. Cause it's like, I want to get to this next level, but you have to embody that as well, because that's a
Right.
huge part of that up leveling is like it's internal before it's external. So you have to believe like I'm worthy to step into this next level to get even more visibility than I've already had, to convert those leads, to have more revenue, to hold more. So I think there is that growth mindset first, and that feeling like this served me for a time, for a season, and now I'm ready for something more to look like that authority in my space.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying in terms of, how big mindset is going to play a role in this. And that makes perfect sense because they now need to bring in more money, but they've probably been kind of hitting this consistency of, whatever their actual revenue is. And that's something that's easy for them. And now they've got to step outside their comfort zone a little bit to try to bring in more and trying to convince themselves that they can fulfill that capacity, that they are capable of helping more people, that they are qualified to help the type of person that they want to help. So there's so much that goes into this. Like I think we think of just the nuts and bolts of the website part of it. Yes, you're building a beautiful website, but there's so much going on behind the scenes and so much work that they need to be doing before we can even get to the point where you're building the website. So where do you start with someone when they need a refresh?
I think it's maybe asking the question, like, where do you want to be? How do you want to be perceived? And because perception is reality. And, so many times, we get that first impression just once. And, you want to have the best first impression you can have, especially as there are so many experts out there in our fields. Like there's not just like a handful anymore. There are hundreds of people who are, business coaches, who are designers, who are out there in our industries. And we need to stand out and look like the capable, qualified person that can help them with their problems. And I think it is just asking the question, how do I want to be seen? Where do I want to be? Is my business representing me well? Is my website representing me well? And so many times it's not about like feeling that cringe feeling of sending someone to their website. It's not like, oh, I don't really want to send you to my website. It's not really that. It's more of there's like a hesitation. Like, I just wish this was a little bit better, but here you go. All of my info's in there. You can find out about my services, my offerings, but it's just kind of that like, and you'll know that from your own self, like how you're feeling about things. And it's
Mhm.
just asking those hard questions of yourself and being honest with yourself. I think that's a big one too.
Well, I think it makes sense. I mean, we spend so much time, we always talk about, know who your ideal client is, understand deeply who your ideal client is so that you can target them. But then you also have to reflect internally as well to say, who do I need to be
Yeah.
to attract my ideal client? And not in a disingenuous way, not in an authentic way, of course, but who is the person that I need to be? And then do the work to ensure that you are that person for them before getting into the website and everything else. And that way your website, your brand, and everything that you're putting out online is reflecting who you actually need to be and who you want to be and who you genuinely are to be able to
Yeah.
serve those clients. But I can understand how there becomes a bit of a disconnect in there. So you had talked, or we mentioned anyway, that we were going to be talking about like ways to position yourself as sort of that industry leading expert. So walk us through how branding plays into that authority positioning. Like, what are some of the visual or strategic elements that signal expertise and authority? Because I know there was a time where it was just do a bunch of blogs and you're an authority, right? Like, that was when I was first starting my first business. It was just blog all the time and you're an expert. Boom, it worked. It was amazing, great SEO. And sure, I'm sure we should all be doing plenty of blogging now, but there's so much more that goes into actually building that authority and and positioning as that industry leading expert. So walk us through what that looks like.
Well, you're right about that. Times have changed for sure. Back in the day, it was so much easier to do a lot of things. And I feel like you can say that nowadays for certain things as well. There's always good and bad with everything. But I would say there's three things. The first thing is how you carry yourself. So people can sense your energy, your confidence when they're talking with you and when you're presenting information, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's in a blog post, on Instagram or wherever you are. I think that your energy really plays a big role. And so people can see the confidence and so when you're talking like you are an expert, like you know what you're talking about, they feel more confident in you as a person and as a service provider. And they feel confident spending money with you. So I think number one is like your energy and how you're carrying yourself and your confidence in what you're talking about. And the second thing is looking the part, which is where a rebrand or a website refresh can come into play. If your site is looking dated or DIY, it's just not as credible. It's just not as captivating and it's just not as trustworthy because compared to someone who has like a really modern, excuse me, streamlined and like beautiful presence, it's like captivating. The words are working on the site. Everything is like working. If you're comparing a DIY to like something that's recently refreshed, people normally will go to that one. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, first impressions really matter. So the second thing is like looking the part. And the third thing is taking a stand in your content and I think a really important thing is your values. Mm-hmm. Bringing your values into your work, into your content, like how you're talking about things, I think is extremely important because I think that is the thing that people gravitate towards a lot of times to working with the service providers. They connect in the content and in what you're saying, what you're sharing, with values. And for me, like just for an example, like something that's really important to me is like family first. And so, I am a stay-at-home mom with my kids while I have my business. And so it's just important to me. And so that's something I talk about in my content, like keeping my values aligned, which is the reason I was really like scaling my business into like an agency model in the spring. And I took a hard look at everything and I decided to scale back because it's important to me to be with my kids right now because they are very young. So that was kind of a decision I made that kind of just plays into my business and my decisions and stuff. But I think people want to connect with you on a real level and like a values level. And so I think it's good to be kind of sharing what's important to you, what do you believe in, like how do you do things differently, really kind of talking about those things that make you special and unique.
Now I want to go back to okay, so we talked about three different points there. And going back to like the first point that you brought up, and we're talking about, making sure that we're getting the right image out there. Like what's the difference between a brand that maybe attracts like the tire kickers versus one that's going to actually attract the premium ready to invest clients? And I know you've talked a lot about DIY websites, and I'm sure there's probably some people who are listening and they're like, I DIY'd my website and are now kind of rethinking like what they could have done to make it look less DIY. I mean, because I think that's the thing, when we do a DIY website, we're pretty proud of it at the time that we do it. But it does have, I think, less of a lifespan than a more professionally designed website. It doesn't have that longevity to it. So there's probably some people who are kind of listening to this and thinking, I mean, I DIY'd my website. I think it's good enough, but maybe I could be up leveling this a little bit. So what's going to attract the tire kickers versus the more premium ready to invest clients?
I think that's such a good point to make. And I think I would definitely be talking about the value you bring to your work and your services. And so when you're talking about the value and really honing in on like, this is what you could be doing if you had, or say you get like 100 website visitors a month. This is a small, like, just sample, but like, and you're getting like one inquiry, like you should be getting maybe like more than that, like more than 1%, like 3%, you would get 3%. And then you would close, if you have like a 40% close rate, you can close 2 of those instead of not closing any. And so I think it just kind of plays into the talking about the value, bringing into, how is this really affecting my business. And especially if you are getting visibility and if you are getting, outreach and everything, your site actually has to be working for you and getting those people to connect, whether that's signing up for your newsletter, inquiring, learning about you, following you on social. Your site should be your best employee working for you all the time. And so I think talking about the value is really important. I think bringing up your numbers is important. So, you can bring up like, this is how much I charge. And like, I think, pricing on your website, there's a lot of different thoughts about this. I personally like it because it's transparency. And you also don't get those tire kickers. You get people who are like, okay, so this is what she charges. And, she's loud and proud about it. It's not just like inquire to find out. It's like, well, is this range like 2,000 or 10,000? Like, what are we talking about here? So I think it's good to have a range. And if you don't want to put your pricing directly like on your services page, you can always have it in the inquiry form or in your contact form. And it can say like, my services range from this to this, do you understand, check yes or no, or something like that, just so people understand. And normally you're getting people who are aware of your pricing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, like I think we have a question that's something along the lines of what is your budget to invest in coaching, and has a couple of different ranges. And the range doesn't start at zero, just to make it
yes, exactly.
make it a little bit more clear that this is going to cost you a little something for sure.
Right.
And so, it's hard not to talk about money when we're talking about not only a rebrand, but the clients that we're trying to attract. Like it is all about money. Like our goal is to make money.
Yeah.
I don't know a single business coach out there who is not in business to make money. I don't know a single business owner who's not out there to make money. And yet sometimes we seem to forget that that's actually our goal is to bring in actual money. So why not talk more about money? And you've actually said that, your rebrand can help to grow your money mindset. We talked a little bit about mindset earlier and about how that impacts your rebrand. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that connection. And we're going to do that just right after this quick message. We'll be right back after this quick message.
This episode of the Real Women, Real Business podcast is brought to you by, well, potentially you. Are you passionate about helping female entrepreneurs build stronger, work smarter, and dream bigger? We're looking for strategic partners who understand that success doesn't have to come with sacrifice and stress. Our podcast reaches accidental CEOs who are ready to turn their Swiss cheese knowledge into solid business foundations. With 30% month-over-month growth, we're redefining how working hard looks and feels for passionate entrepreneurs. Visit aboutshaunalynn.com/partner to learn how you can join us in building sustainable, passion-driven businesses.
And welcome back to the Real Women, Real Business podcast. All right, welcome back to the Real Women, Real Business podcast, where we are talking with RuthAnn Rafiq and from our art space. And we're going to talk about how your rebrand can actually help you to grow your money mindset. So RuthAnn, you've talked about how investing in premium branding can shift how entrepreneurs actually price and sell their offers. So like, how often have you seen clients actually raising their prices after a rebrand? What's making that possible? How is a rebrand impacting their money mindset?
Totally. Well, your mindset plays into how you feel and what you believe. I mean, more than we can even say. So, that is what mindset is. It's how you feel and what you believe. And so if every day you're feeling defeated or, just not encouraged, or like, oh, my site could be so much better, but here it is, it's not really helping me. But, subconsciously you're turning away leads and opportunities because of that feeling. And rather, if you go through a rebrand and you become so clear on your mission, your values, and your goals, which is another side note about a rebrand. A rebrand is getting new visuals and a website update, yes, but it's also getting so much clarity on those brand strategy pieces, which are having your mission, values, goals, written down. So it's just like clarity for all sides of your business and giving you a roadmap for like where you're going. And I think it's just so important to have that. So bringing in the visuals of it, having new visuals, and it's kind of like getting new brand photos. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share these. I can't wait to put these on social. I can't wait to like put these on my site. And that's how you feel with a rebrand and having a website that's really updated, instead of having like, you're just adding on an offer every time that you every 6 months you're like adding a page to the site, it feels a little disjointed. It feels like it doesn't really, it's like not super cohesive, but it's like, I need this up and this is what I'm doing. So it's like, you're
It's
fine with
makeshift.
it. It's a little
Yeah.
makeshift. And so when you have everything that's really cohesive, really up leveled, looks really premium, it just does something to your subconscious where you're like, I know what I'm talking about. I am the go-to. And, you're becoming, like that, what's that phrase? It's like, not the audience of one, but it's like, you're becoming the one that they want to reach out to. It's not like you're in a sea of competition. It's like that's it. Like, it's just you. And so I feel like when you have that mindset behind you, it really plays into how you market yourself for opportunities you reach out about, collaboration. Things might come up and you're like going for it, whereas before you might not like do that, if that makes sense. So it's like, it just plays a really big role in the whole process.
Well, it's sort of like the whole dress for the job that you want, not the job that you
Yes.
have, right? And, it's when you get a brand new outfit, you get your hair done, you feel like $1,000,000, you present yourself differently. So I would imagine that, with a refresh on your website, on your brand, and like you said, again, that clarity of messaging, I am all about the clarity. I am all about understanding what is it we're actually building, how we're genuinely helping people. It's not just about like I have a tendency to work with what I call my accidental CEOs. So these are creative entrepreneurs who started the business with more passion than plan. And so they had this idea of, or this thing that they did, and they did it really, really well. And they're like, I'm going to sell this and people are going to pay me money and I'm going to make money for this. And that's great. But if you don't understand why people want it, how it's really serving them, how is it actually benefiting them? What is it that you're actually giving to them? It's not just this, like, let's say you embroider sweaters or you crochet sweaters. That's a great business to have. You're great at crocheting and you started selling them to some friends and then more people wanted them. Next thing you know, you've got this whole Shopify or Etsy website or whatever, and it's taking off. So you're just like, I make sweaters. Great. But what is it that you're actually providing? What do those sweaters actually do? There's so much more to it than just the I make sweaters. And I think it's a transition of that as well, of just like that, when you get really clear about what it is that you're actually building, why you're building, how you're helping people, all of your messaging can fall into place. And I know I have clients that come to me as a business coach and they don't have leads coming in. So I do sort of this, I call it a money momentum session or a money call that I do with my clients to figure out, where are we losing out on money here? There's often money that's hiding in our own businesses. And a big part of that comes from, well, a big part of what we do is identify, like, are there areas that we just need to be more efficient? Are there areas where we need to raise prices? But we need to evaluate where the gap is on the path to profit. And this comes from initially our offer. Like, what is it that we're offering to people in the first place? And then are we attracting people properly with that offer? So kind of to your point of if we know that what we're providing is valuable and we've got that part nailed down and they're coming to our website, and then when they're coming to the website, we're not actually getting them to inquire. Okay, like that's you need to actually break it down and diagnose it in terms of where on this path are they getting stuck. I often find that a lot of people are getting stuck just with the generating the leads in the first place. And of course, the initial thought is, oh, I just need to post on social media more. I just need to update the website. I just need to do all these different things. And yes, all of those might play a role, but we can update your website 12 different times. But if you're not clear on your messaging, if you're not clear on what it is that you're building, what the true vision of your company is, who you are, what you represent, and why you're doing all of this, none of that's going to translate to your website and you're still not going to get any more business. And this is something where I think a lot of people have this disconnect of like, I do this really cool thing. Great. Why does that matter?
Yeah. Yes, which is getting into the brand strategy of like, this is what strategy is. It's that clarity piece. It's getting so clear on your messaging, your positioning, how you're different than everybody else, 100%.
Yeah. And so now I want to talk about some organic marketing strategies because I know we talk often about, oh, well, you can do some Google ads or you can do some social media ads and that drives traffic to your website. But there are a lot of ways to do organic marketing as well. So what are some organic marketing strategies? What are some of maybe the biggest opportunities that you see on service providers' websites that are costing them clients?
I think a huge one for organic is your blog or your podcast. These two are enormous, and there's so much potential here because, especially in a podcast, when you have a podcast, you can use it like a blog in that every single episode, you can have it written out like a blog post. You can have the headlines, you can have like the sub headlines, all the text. And normally in a podcast, if you're doing this like a blog post, it'll end up being thousands of words. I did one the other day that was like 12,000 words. And so it's like, that's so much opportunity to use keywords and to do backlinks and all of that stuff. So I think, your podcast is a huge like missed opportunity for so many business owners who have one. If you're using it, you want to be using it like a blog post. You want to be using the headlines, strategically using your keywords. And because we all want to get found on Google or ChatGPT. Whenever people are like talking to ChatGPT, they can like reference you.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge opportunity. Guest posting on other podcasts is a big one because then they can link to you and you can link to, it's more, cross promotion. And same with the blog. The blog goes for that podcast one too. If you're only blogging, definitely use those keywords, make sure it's long form, make sure, it's something that your ideal clients are looking for, searching for. And then lastly, like having a dedicated page for your freebies, I think is an opportunity where people can, really, if people are, kind of shopping around like, oh, what can she help me with? It's really nice to have them all laid out there, for someone to find what they're looking for and to opt in. So then you have like your welcome sequence all in place. So those are some big ones that could really help.
And those are huge. I mean, I will say, as someone who has a podcast, for example, I host every single one of my episodes is hosted directly on my website. And some people I know don't have that directly on their website. I did that intentionally because I want the SEO of it. I also host my own transcripts. So all the transcripts, if you go to the show notes in any one of your apps and you want to see the transcripts, it is going to take you to my website, which means that all the words we are saying in this episode are literally written out. Every single one of them verbatim are written out on my website. And then, yes, we take podcast episodes and we turn those into blogs. I turn them into LinkedIn articles. We make short form videos out of them. There's so much repurposing that we do with this podcast. And then to your point, on our episode page, we've got our show notes there. And every time I have a guest on my website, like RuthAnn, for example, you're going to go on to the show notes for today's episode and you're going to see it on our website. And it's going to give you a link to get in touch with RuthAnn. So it's going to have a direct link to your website on there. So there's your backlinks right there. As soon as you're guest hosting on a podcast, you are going to be getting those backlinks to your website. There's so much value to all of this, and it's so incredibly easy to do. It actually amazes me that more people don't do it. I mean, we're consistently putting out blogs, we are consistently putting out episodes, and that has really helped to boost our SEO. I know I will also say that our diligence with Google reviews has really helped us as well. And I would love to say that I am perfect at it. I am not. I don't think I've ever met someone who has a perfect system, but I am consistently asking people for Google reviews rather than just testimonials, getting them directly on Google, because that really has been helping us with our organic traffic as well. But I love the tips that you provided there. I think that there's so many missed opportunities, like you said, in doing some long form stuff. And if you've already got a podcast, this is the thing that, I think we really need to drive home is if you've already got a podcast, you've already got all of the tools that you need. You've got the resources, you've got the content. You just need to turn it into something that actually brings people to your website. Yeah.
Yes, the podcast is gold. If you have one, which is I took a little hiatus from my own podcast over the summer, and I came back to it because I was like, this is such an untapped. First of all, I love podcasting; it's very fun for me, and so I was like, I'm just gonna, this is a huge opportunity for SEO and to establish yourself as an authority, like what we were talking about earlier. You're really positioning yourself as an industry leader in that way with your confidence, with what you are talking about, that kind of thing. But it's a gold mine for SEO, and you putting in your keywords, like having the transcript, like you said, on the site with all of those words, putting in your headlines, keywords in your headlines, all that kind of stuff. So it's very helpful.
Now, earlier you mentioned, I wanted to kind of circle back to this because I did note it, but I didn't want to dig into it at the time. But you talked about how you actually started scaling up your business and then you decided to scale back because you've got three little ones at home and you're actually homeschooling as well, right? Like, how do you approach that sustainable business growth without burning out? You mentioned one thing was that you identified the size that you want to be right now, but are there some systems or boundaries that have kind of been game changers for you in balancing the and I hate using the term balance. I always say a work-life integration rather than balance, but there is a bit of a balancing act that's happening there as well. Like, what are some strategies or systems that you have found work for you?
Well, that is a great question. And it's, I think you just have to be something that has really, really helped me is knowing what season of business I need to be in and knowing what season of motherhood I'm in. When you have kids, they just change so quickly. And so the season I was in last year was my best revenue year to date. And I had just given birth to my third. And so I was like, this is awesome. I could do this forever. And then like this year, things are just a little bit more challenging. And like, I am homeschooling my 5-year-old. So for context, I have a 5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 16-month-old.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so at the time we're recording this, so things just change quickly. When you have a newborn, they sleep all the time. So you do have another child, you are nursing all the time, but it's like, it's not too impactful, but when they're running around, when they're needing things all the time, like they're climbing into everything, you really can't get anything done. And so yeah, I was just kind of aware like this season I'm in is important to me and I want to be here and present. And so now is not the best time to be scaling to full agency, like
Right.
just because when I was bringing on other designers, I just recognized like, wow, this is actually taking a lot of time. This is not like saving me time. It's costing me a lot of time because you have to, when you hire new people, you have to give them direction, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to visuals. Like for me, like I'm kind of a perfectionist and I really get into the details and I'm like, there was just a lot of me. I don't want to use the word micromanaging because I think of myself as an okay leader, but there was just a lot of like me checking in, me making revisions, me giving creative direction. And it was just taking a lot of time. And I was like, I just
Right.
um, I don't think I can go in this direction right now. And so I did decide to scale back and it's felt so good. And that's kind of something that really helped as well is like, what's feeling good to you in the moment? Is your business feeling like really, really hard? Like what is the thing that's going to help you, feel better in business, like really be excited to work. And I've always loved my business. I've been in my business for 10 years now, coming up on 10 years. I love what I do. Designing and doing brands and websites is just something I absolutely love. I can't imagine like
Right.
not doing it. And so I will figure it out. But I think it's just knowing like I was in a really hard season. Like I was just struggling in, trying to make the business like, keep all these people like it was like a balancing act trying to
Yeah.
keep this running and then like not like struggling in the home. Like I was just like, things are not working. Like, what can I do to make this simple? What can I do to make this easy? And, is going back to, for me, like being a solo entrepreneur and just having, some white label designers who can help me per project, not doing a full agency at the moment, but scaling it down. And there are different ways to grow your business. You can scale, your one-to-one services, like increase pricing, like there are different things you can do. It doesn't have to be a one way fits all. Like
Right.
agency is not for everybody. And it might be for me in the future, but I think it's just knowing where I'm at in the season and just finding your piece. I was searching for mine and I feel like I'm in a really good spot right now. I like, I work one-to-one with clients. I do, 1 to 2 projects at a time. I'm not juggling like 8 to 10 projects anymore. So it's just, this is what I can handle right now. And things might change when they get older and when I decide to put them in school, that kind of thing. So I just know that this season is short. And I know I'm kind of like going off here, but I just think it's important to not compare yourself because I think I really sometimes can struggle with that because I'm like, oh, I'm this far in my business. I should be, having an agency now. I should be doing, hitting this revenue goal by now, whatever. And I think it's important to kind of always look at yourself and be like, what is important to me? Going back to the values thing, what is really important to me right now? Like, I think I would regret if I wasn't here for my kids in this season. So I think it's going back to the values, yeah, finding your peace and knowing what season you're in.
Well, I love that you're like what you're explaining here, what you're identifying is that you are essentially living exactly the way that you walk your clients through the rebrand. It's ensuring that you are being true to who you are, what you want your business to represent. And it's not a short conversation that you're having with yourself. And it's an important one that you're having at all times to ensure that your brand is really reflecting you. And if you feel like it doesn't feel the way it's supposed to, it doesn't look the way that it's supposed to, then something does need to potentially change in the business. That's usually your first sign. Like you were saying, like if you're feeling a little bit of friction, if things are feeling hard, something is off in your business. It's not just I just need to work a little harder and I just need to get through this really tough spot. Sometimes, yes, there are just definitely difficult times, but that we need to get through. But other times it's as a signal that there's something that's not quite working or not quite sitting right with us. And it's important for us to be able to listen to those as well. Now,
Totally.
you've
You're
got
so
an
right.
incredible offer for our listeners for a site success audit. Tell us a little bit about this offer. And I will tell you, listeners, listen up to this and pay attention because I want you to claim this because this has a huge value, not just the dollar value that she would normally charge for this, but she's given it to us for free, but in how the results that you can get from this. So, RuthAnn, tell us a little bit about your site success audit.
Yes, I'm so happy to be gifting 3 of these away. But the site success audit is where you feel like something might be off. Maybe you are really like the conversions are falling off. You're like, I'm getting traffic and I don't know where something is, missing or lacking. This is a chance where I can come in and look at your homepage, your service, like your main offer, and give you strategic feedback on your design and your copy. I think copy is just as much, if not more important than design for sure, because the copy is the thing that will convert them. So I really give you my best tips and strategies for, changing some copy if you need it changed, what design things I would do differently. And it's just giving you, my best feedback and where those gaps are in your website. So I'm happy to, like I said, gift these to 3 people who reach out, and I'm sure you're going to have the link in the show notes, but it's rartspace.com/audit. And you can sign
Yes.
up for that.
Yes, we'll definitely have it in the show notes as well. So definitely check it out. And that's our art space, as in the letter R for RuthAnn, rartspace.com. So, and then /audit. So amazing. RuthAnn, this has been such an incredible conversation. If someone is listening to this today, I think we shared a lot of different tips. We've talked about organic marketing. We've talked about being an authority. We've talked about how you can raise your prices when you do a rebrand and how this can really impact your whole money mindset, how you value your own services and how you see yourself and how to really own that space. And so if someone were to take one thing away from today's episode that we talked about and put it into action today, what is the one thing that you really hope that they take away from today's episode?
Excuse me. I think if they could be a little self-reflective and ask, like, is my online presence representing me well? Like, is how I want to be represented? I think that's a great point to start at. And if you're feeling like, oh, I feel like it could be a lot better, I think it starts with that mindset, like we were talking about. Like, where do you want to be? Where do you see your business now? How do you want to be perceived? Where do you want to go? And make it a goal. Like, I want to make this a goal. And when you decide in your mind that you want to move forward something, you will figure out a way to make it happen. And so many times we get stuck in like indecision. I don't know, should I, shouldn't I? And it just takes up so much brain power. It's like, just
Right.
decide, like, I don't want to do it right now and decide, or I do want to do this right now. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to start conversations and like start in that direction. So I think it's just, self-diagnosis, ask questions and then start the conversation.
Amazing. And then of course reach out to you for that site success audit to get some tips on how they might be able to start improving some things right away.
That's right.
Amazing. RuthAnn, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. This has been such an insightful episode, such a great conversation. I've really loved the tips that you've shared. And I think that there was so much goodness in there that I hope that all the listeners who are listening will go back and take another listen because there's so much to capture there. But thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared today.
Absolutely. Shauna Lynn, thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. So listen up, listeners. If what we're saying today is resonating with you, then I hope that you will tune in again next week. We drop new episodes every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. And please allow us to continue to be a part of your journey. We love being on this journey with you. Don't forget to leave us a review or subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, the best way that you can not only support this podcast, but to support your fellow women entrepreneurs is to take this episode and share it with someone you know needs to hear this message today. That is the greatest way that you can not only support us, but to support your fellow entrepreneurs. And until next time, keep thriving.